loans. I think in the next 3 or 4 years, China's loans and aid investment to Africa will be double or triple that of loans coming from World Bank. Western countries, IMF, World Bank all have strings attached, governance issues, human rights issues. China say no strings attached. Of course there are strings attached, not announced. Big projects go to Chinese companies, but they say they're not interfering in domestic affairs, okay? And so here you have, I think my argument is that you look at the bilateral relationship and to try to position yourself to deal with China, you really have to understand China's domestic dynamics. What is the Chinese domestic dynamics in terms of development? I think it's very simple. China is running a one-party state trying to maintain stability and control, at the same time trying to provide economic benefits to its citizens. And on the economic realm, it's really now what you witness is a kind of primitive, cut teeth, down-to-earth competitive capitalism. Okay, you have exploitation, you have disregard for environment, you have child labor, woman labor, long hours. All these kind of things are going on. So my question is really to these people who are screaming about how to deal with China is, look, how do you expect a China, the wave of globalization has moved into China in such a scale that how do you expect a country that actually exploit their own workers ruthlessly? You expect them to be nice in Africa when they set up private ventures to the locals? They have polluted most of their cities, rivers, and coastal lines, and air. Do you expect them, then they say they come to Africa to set up factories, they will follow environmental standards? The Western companies don't even do that. You expect the Chinese to do that? You expect them to follow all the fancy Western-style safety measures when at home they don't really care. I can tell you, every year in the past 5 years, official statistics show that 6,500 coal miners alone die in coal mine-related accidents. And that is official number. And that is 17 miners die every day in China. Coal mine alone, official figures. Unofficial figures, 20,000. Mostly these mines are operated under restricted conditions that states said you should close these. They don't. They just run it. A lot of money for energy. And people, why they line up to have these terrible conditions? They do. Poor farmers from the countryside line up saying, I want a job, I want better pay. So okay, you sign a contract. If you work here and you die, I give you 3,000 yuan, less than 500 Canadian dollars. And we settle. People line up to sign that contract to work. And just as simple as that. So you expect them to do all these things in an idealistic setting? I think it's impossible. These many ventures in Africa, in Latin America, and other places are not run by the government. The private sector, you're going out. The companies are doing those. The government can do grandstanding statement of moral, purity by saying this and that, but reality is very different. So I think to change Chinese practices around the world, or multinationals or their enterprises, the dynamics has to change inside China. So what I'm saying is the north or south-south, the effort I think is actually to look at the broader enterprise of the globalization and its negative impacts. Market alone does not produce social justice. Market alone does not produce income equality. China, in its own history in the past 20 years, have moved from one of the most equal societies on earth to one of the most unequal ones. And that's just reality. So I think we have to understand any bilateral relationship, Africa or China or others, have to have a good understanding of dynamics internally, okay? And secondly, I think how do you identify these common challenges and solving them together? So solving the problems of China's own problems is actually solving the global problems in a sense, in a globalized world. And China has limits. China has limits in many of the areas I identified, and I think the best way is really, I still feel there is room for state intervention and regulation, because the market cannot do the kind of set of things we want the Chinese companies to do. So you need to have some kind of regional framework for Africa to engage the Chinese, to tap into this mentality of China wants to be a responsible global power and stakeholder, whatever you call it, and then let them do something good. I think the market alone will not do it, and the sustainable engagement strategy has to come in some ways to do in many of those areas. I think I'm running late to a conclusion rather than just prospects. I think I'm done with that. So I think I keep repeating myself. And I look at the slide, I just repeated that. Yeah, and thank you very much. Yeah.